We are back with season 2 of Ausjdocs podcast. For our first episode, we're gonna have a chat with Hash, our old mate, about ophthalmology programs. So, without further ado, let's get it on. Yep, so recording now. How you been, Hash? How you been?
I'm good. Am I allowed to say your
Yeah.
name? You gonna
Well,
bleep? You're just gonna bleep it.
just call me Hustling Ninja, bro. Hustling
How
Ninja.
are you? How
And
are
you
you,
can be
Doctor
Hash.
Ninja? Mr. Doctor Ninja, sir.
It's been good, mate. It's been good. It's been good because we met recently and we had a
Yes,
good
we got to
chat.
catch up.
Yeah,
Yes, it's been a while since I'd seen you face to face. We are in different states.
we are. We are. Um, the state you're in was pretty chill actually. It was quite chill compared to my state.
I mean, I meant in literal states in Australia, but I see you use that as a pun.
Uh, all right, mate. We have lots to talk about.
Mm.
So there has been some changes. I mean, you came on as a guest on, I guess, season 1, and back then you were a ENT on accredited registrar.
I
Um,
love that you call them seasons.
mate, you gotta have seasons, mate. You gotta have
You've
seasons.
made people wait like it's Game of Thrones or something.
I mean, we did have a long break in between, right? I mean, the season 1 was recorded last year, I think. Was it last year?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And obviously we are quite busy, like rest of the junior doctors. Yeah,
Mm,
we had things
mm.
going on, we've been working. So tell the audience what's going on, mate. I think you decided to change your career.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think in the last podcast episode, we
Mm,
talked about trying to widen your net of career options.
mm,
Um, Obviously, being an unaccredited ENT registrar, I was sort of heading down that pathway. But you have to be realistic with with our career paths. And
that's right.
I don't think anything's guaranteed in our job, no matter who you are or what or how hard you work or any of
Mm,
the any of the CV building that you do or the networking that you do.
mm, exactly.
Sometimes, yeah,
Mm.
yeah,
I think a lot of us or most of us knows how difficult it is to get into really any specialty, but especially surgical specialty, isn't it?
mm,
The
mm,
fact that there's only limited amount of people who can get through that little um, door.
yeah,
And in order for you to even get through that, you need to spend several years, buffing up your CV, getting to know the specialty, and
mm,
you need to know the procedures and operations and things, and et cetera, et
yeah.
cetera. So it is quite difficult.
But
So,
at the end of the day, it's a finite number of people that
exactly.
get accepted.
Mm, mm. And especially, ENT, which is, very specialized field of
Mm,
medicine. Yeah, it is quite difficult, and that's the reality, really. Especially in
mm,
Australia, yeah, it's very difficult to get in. And obviously, you tried that for number of years, and I think you were successful in the end. Is that right?
yes, yes. So
Yeah.
this year yeah, as part of increasing my net of applications, and reflecting on, other things in medicine that I've enjoyed when I was more junior, I decided I'd apply to ophthalmology and ENT. Because thinking back, my earlier PGY years, I did a shared term in ophthalmology, ENT, and max fax, and I quite liked all three aspects of that term. Um, and yeah, when you're PGY 7 and you have to think about, well, what else might I enjoy? What else can um, meet those criteria that you have in a career that you want? And look, ophthalmology definitely has a lot of those ticks those boxes. And so yeah, I applied to both training pathways this year. I was lucky enough to get a first round offer in ophthalmology, which I was ecstatic about, and I happily took that. And then later down the track, I was offered a second round ENT training position. And I had to do a lot of reflection, and I ultimately stuck to ophthalmology for a number of reasons, of course. But I'm very happy with how it all played out.
So, firstly, that's amazing, and congratulations for, getting into ophthalmology and as well as ENT. Now, look, let's dissect that a little bit because that's super interesting, isn't it? Because I know for a fact that you've been trying to get into ENT and you kind of hone your skills and your CVs and, everything towards ENT, right? For a number of
Yeah,
years.
yeah, but that's a consequence of the Australian healthcare system.
Mm,
When you find yourself um, interested in any subspecialty in the Australian
mm,
healthcare system, it kind of funnels you. If you really want to pursue it, the
exactly.
system funnels you into that. And part of that concern is obviously getting de-skilled in other parts
Mm,
of medicine.
mm,
And so, you don't have a choice. You almost don't have a
mm.
choice. Trying to stay as generalist as possible is not going to put you in the strongest position in any
Mm,
subspecialty application.
mm.
Um, yeah.
But I guess that interesting turn of events. So how did you turn that around to get into ophthalmology? That's like super interesting. And I don't think I ever heard anyone doing that. Maybe there might be
Well,
a few people. Yeah.
yeah, no, they're out there.
Hmm.
Certainly, I I was uh, inspired essentially from a prior unaccredited ENT reg who applied to ophthalmology and was successful. Um, and I had never heard of them before, but when I'd heard about it, I thought to myself, oh, it's actually possible to sort of pivot and change because when you've been unaccredited for 3 years and your options are starting to get more and more limited, you kind of lose sight that there are other possibilities. And so yeah, I reached out to them and had a chat to them about what the application process is like. And I can speak to both what the opthal and ENT application process is like. Um, Similar but different in many ways as well. Um, and so, yeah,
Let's talk about that a little bit more because I'm sure the listener will be super interested. Obviously, both specialties are quite competitive, opthal and ENT. And I mean, like from my limited information, if someone wants to be an ophthalmologist, they kind of gear towards the whole, I guess, even from the beginning, like in med school, it's the one
mm,
that I've met, the trainees that I've met, they were dead set on ophthalmology from the get-go, from medical school. And, they've been pushing
mm,
out research, they've been hanging around with the consultants and the unit and
mm,
all that as well.
mm,
So this is, really foreign to me, to be honest. But again, like
yeah,
I'm not, well versed on those two
yeah,
specialties. So yeah, can you tell us a little bit more about, CB points or even, getting
yeah,
into that
yeah.
ophthalmology program? Yeah.
Before I expand on that, I just want to say those um, doctors who know early on what they want to do and can
Mm,
apply themselves and pursue it, they're quite, in a sense, they're quite lucky.
mm,
Sometimes they can be unlucky if only one specialty is the thing that they are passionate about and it doesn't work out. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword. But yeah, certainly if you're a medical school and you've set your heart on one thing, there is an advantage to that because you can work on it earlier. Um, Look, yeah, so the ophthalmology application, um, it's all available on the RANSCO website. So you can go on there and read about it. So nothing of what I'm about to say is not accessible. Um, Essentially, you have, much like all the applications, there are points scored, and points are broken down to your CV, your referee score, um, your interview score, which is it's a two-stage interview. And if you read it, the CV, none of your research specifically has to be in ophthalmology, which I think is really sensible. A lot of the research scoring relates around journal impact factor, which I think is really fair. If you compare that with ENT, where there is no difference as to what journal you publish in, that can create a little bit of a unfair standard. And so I like that ophthalmology looks at that. There's points. So yeah, in terms of yeah publications, that doesn't have to be in ophthalmology. Because what they're looking for, at least this is my interpretation, what they're looking for is that you've done research, you can understand how to analyze medical data, and you can draw conclusions, and you understand the processes of evidence-based medicine. And that doesn't have to be in ophthalmology. That's a general skill you require from research. Um, there are points associated to having ophthalmic experience, but that is the smallest category of points. There are only 4 points associated with that. And so having 0 out of 4 does not it's not a huge detriment in your total CV score, because as I said, it's the smallest category. Um, and then there's extracurricular aspects which you can read about. If you are an Olympian or a national swimmer, you represent Australia or something to that effect. There are points associated with that, as well as charity, of course. And so there are different categories, and none of it, other than that 4 points for ophthalmology, no other categories specific to having ophthalmic experience. There is points for rural, and having Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander heritage, and there are points associated with that for, of course, diversity. And so, yeah, well, there is nothing to say. Whereas in ENT, you get points with surgical rotations. I think specifically ENT rotations, there are points specifically, and it's like 6 points, something to that effect, which is quite a large bulk of points. And so that funnels you in. And the referees, there's differences. Ophthalmology, your referees do not have to be ophthalmologists. They need to just support you as an applicant, of course. Whereas ENT, it's pretty specific. It says you need to list ENT. You need to list ENT surgeons. Not all of them have to be ENT surgeons, but certainly, I think at least some of them need to be.
Yeah, look, that's super interesting, isn't it? I think, obviously we know that I guess, specialties like surgical specialties from RACS kind of requires you to be kind of going to your own, like you got to be in that specialty, right? Like you said,
Mm.
you need a reference from your own specialty consultant, you get points for rotation that you do in that specialty. So yeah, like you said before, you kind of have to live and breathe that, on that specialty,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. If you want to
But
be, yeah.
yeah, but ophthalmology, that is really interesting. That they kind of broaden their, I guess,
I mean, I
city.
think
Yeah.
again, my interpretation of the whole application is that they're looking for good applicants with diverse experience, different sort of experiences. And yeah, it's not absolutely necessary that you pigeonhole or funnel yourself into ophthalmology, unlike other um, subspecialty applications where there is almost this expectation. Um, so those are some key differences in that stage. The situational judgment test, we had to sit that last year for both ENT and ophthalmology, and they were separate and they were run separately as well. Um, yeah, so they're both SJTs, but they're different tests, obviously different colleges. Um, but they've now,
Was
as I
it
understand it, yeah.
Was it there before? So I don't think there was situational judgment tests before,
So
right? Like a couple
yeah,
of years.
so
Yeah.
yeah. So ENT, the last year was the first year where the SJT was counted. Um,
Right.
and interestingly, ophthalmology has now taken off the SJT in their application, I believe.
Oh,
Um,
okay. Yeah.
so yeah,
Where's
as of next year, I don't think it's being included, which I don't recall if there's any information as to why it was removed. Um, but yeah, so
yeah,
ENT will continue to have it.
that's interesting. Just out of interest, so do you know how many people got on to ophthalmology for next year?
So in it's state-based in
Mm.
Victoria, there were nine. I think there were nine metropolitan trainees and one rural pathway trainee. Unless it was, yeah, I think that's what it was, or it was eight and then nine, or nine or ten, something. One of the, yeah.
Not much at all, is it? That is,
No,
yeah,
no,
not many.
um, no, and it's state-based. So
Mm.
Victoria is definitely one of the larger cohorts. New South Wales
Right.
is a large cohort, and then the other states are quite a bit smaller.
Mm.
In ENT, there were five trainees in Victoria
Mm.
um, that that got on.
Yeah,
Also, very small sample
very
size.
small. Yeah, very small.
Um, and so I was just to conclude in the application process, they both have interviews. The Opthal is a two-stage interview. There's a national interview which is like a mini station interview, and same similar to ENT. And then the major difference in the end is that two-stage interview. So in ophthalmology, you get ranked, and then you are invited to state interviews, um, up to the sort of state board's discretion. Um, yeah.
How did you find the interview? I'm actually interested to hear, your feedback on it. Was it a quite nerve-wracking? Obviously, I guess it was. How did you feel about it?
Look, I thought the ophthalmology interview was run really well. It was really smooth. It was really smooth. You go to a venue and have all the computer and audio set up, and so it just ran really smoothly. ENT, it's sort of at home. You set up your own desk and try to hope that it runs smoothly. Um,
So, so it's not a face-to-face interview?
no, it was all done on Zoom.
Right. Okay. I would imagine that it would be just a panel of people just sitting in front of you.
So the state interview is a panel
Mm,
interview, but
gotcha.
the national interview is a multiple mini interview,
Right. Okay. Right. That's why
and
there's
that's
two
the same.
stages.
That's yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Whereas ENT is just one multiple mini interview.
Yeah. So how did you find the actual face-to-face interview? How was that?
The panel interview,
Mm,
um, it, I was, yeah, look, I thought it was good in the sense of you get to actually see someone face to face.
mm,
You definitely lose a element of um, communication when you're on
mm,
Zoom, over
mm,
video, just in terms of like body language and the way you move your hands. You gesticulate, and um, so you lose that. Whereas the panel interview, although it is of course daunting being on one side of the
mm.
table and there are interviewees on the other side, at the very least, it was kind of refreshing to do an interview where it's not on a webcam, which it's been like that since COVID. You know what I
COVID,
mean?
yeah, that's right. Yeah, at least you could see
Um,
someone in front of you, hey?
yeah, you can see
Mm,
someone and like the
yeah.
energy in the room, you can kind of read it and feed off of that
Yeah.
energy. Whereas on a Zoom interview, it's a little bit different. It's a lot different.
I mean, like, I guess for me, still having a panel of I guess, seniors or consultants, looking at you and asking, questions that you probably haven't come across. I'm sure you practice, but like that's pretty daunting to me, like I probably be super anxious, just I would stutter, trying to like think of my feet, but you know what I mean? The actual whole situation. Was that okay for
Mm.
you during that interview?
Um, Look, I try to um, interpret my stress as excitement, and it's
Mm,
probably just a way to like trick myself into thinking I'm excited and not stressed. Um, yeah, look, it is daunting and stressful, but also it's like a great opportunity. You made it to the final stage of the selection process. So you kind of flip it on the other side. It's like not everyone gets to this stage. You have an opportunity in front of you and you want to capitalize on it. And so there is that sort of optimism and excitement about it.
mm. What would be, I guess, could you give us a few points for, hopefuls or people who will be going through that interview, whether it be ophthalmology or any surgical training or any other specialties. Can you, I guess, yeah, give us any points to do well on those interviews?
Look, yeah, so a multiple mini interview is totally different to a panel interview. A multiple mini interview, I think, should be treated like an oral assessment almost.
Like an OSCE, yeah.
Yeah, kind of like an
Mm,
OSCE.
mm.
And you need to speak and practice these um, you know example stations that you can find online. Um, and I definitely practice with a few different people. Practice with current trainees and practice with your colleagues as well who are also applying. Um, and just regularly practice that oral assessment. Um, Whereas the panel interview, I think I I didn't I don't think that I did a great deal of practice for the panel interview, probably due to time constraints. But the panel interview feels more like a conversation that you can have with someone across the table, um, as opposed to an oral assessment. At least that's how I felt it. Um, yeah, and look, the multiple mini interviews can be variable. Like ophthalmology, when the process finishes, if you're successful, you don't get feedback on your scores or anything. Whereas in ENT, you get feedback. And my weakest element in my ENT application was my multiple mini interview, um,
Right.
which was somewhat of a surprise to me because I approached it in a very similar way to the ophthalmology multiple mini interview.
Right.
Um, so I don't know, you know, the way they score, I think are different as well, and it might be different to urology, plastics, orthopedics. They probably
Yeah.
have their own different, you know, there's all these different mini
Criterias, yeah.
stations. Yeah,
Mm.
there's so much variability, and there's quite a bit of subjectivity as to what might be the right or wrong. So
Yeah, Lon, I guess, you probably never truly kind of find out, why you got, lower score on the
yeah, no, you
MMIs and
wouldn't, you
things.
wouldn't,
Yeah.
yeah, you don't find out about.
Yeah. But I guess now you got onto ophthalmology and you chose ophthalmology over ENT. Um, the fact that, I guess your skill really truly is, ENT skills. How are
Mm.
you kind of now preparing yourself to get into the training program and, you kind of have to kind of learn, I guess
Yeah,
what I'm trying to ask is, there are some unaccredited years, and that's, I guess, one of the reasons why people do it to, learn the skills beforehand, and you kind of know what to expect, getting into a
yeah.
program. So
Well,
how is
look,
that for you now? Yeah.
look on on that. I think sort of just from a um, philosophy. philosophical point of view, I kind of think that the training program is supposed to train you. So as far as ophthalmology is concerned, I'm excited because certainly in Victoria, at least the training program is quite supportive, and there is this expectation that you're going to come in pretty fresh. Um, and yeah, I am reading reading a lot. I don't feel like I've studied like this since the GSSE. I've
Oh,
been
mate.
trying. Yeah, exactly. I've been trying to get as much exposure to ophthalmology cases in my spare time.
Mm.
But you know, there are there are some online modules you have to do beforehand. But yeah, ultimately, yeah, I'm just excited. Just
Yeah,
excited
amazing, bro.
to learn something different, learn a new skill set, um, and sort of reconnect with that PGY2 resident that thought that ophthalmology was really interesting. That's I'm speaking about myself, PGY2 resident when I did that job. But anyway,
Yeah.
go on.
Look, mate, just on a side note, I am so glad that you got onto ophthalmology. Like, I know the struggles and the number of years that you've been grinding and grinding to get into ENT. Um, and
Hey,
you know,
if I could go back in time, thank you. Sorry to cut you.
yeah,
If I could go back in time and apply to ophthalmology sooner, I would have loved to. I just didn't realize that I wasn't I that I wasn't pigeonholed, that there are alternative options, you know?
yeah,
I wish I could go
yeah,
back in time and have
yeah,
applied sooner.
yeah. Mate, don't throw the ENT off the bus just yet, mate. I mean, you
No,
get
no,
all
it's
these.
done.
Mate,
Yeah.
mate.
Imagine dual training. How crazy would that
Oh,
be?
mate. Why would you? Why would
No,
you, man?
historically, it used to be ENT, IENT.
Yeah,
We're
yes,
talking
yes.
like over a
Right.
hundred years ago. That they were one specialty, which is pretty wild.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Mate, you got to live your life, mate. It's
yeah,
not everything's about medicine, not everything's about getting to a training specialty. Look, you got it on, congratulations. Um, now let's talk about the actual program itself. So,
mm,
what's it like? How many years to train you up to become ophthalmologist, and what does it involve? I know, I think you told me that there are several exams as well,
yeah.
during those training years. Yeah.
Yeah, look, lots of exams in opthal training. Um, it is a 5-year training program where the fifth year is a mandatory fellowship year. And I think it's going to change. If not, maybe it's already changed. I'm not actually sure. But historically, it's, you know, 4 years, you sit your fellowship exam in that, I believe, at the start of your fourth year. And so that rest of your fourth year, you're done. And then you look at trying to get a fellowship in your fifth year. Some people do a general fellowship, some people like to do a subspecialty fellowship. But essentially, whatever you do at the end of that 5 years, you're a fellow. And then there are a few people who then go on to do another subspecialty fellowship. Um, for whatever reason, they may want more experience in a particular field. But a lot of fellows won't, and they'll come out as general ophthalmologists with subspecialty interest and skill. There are exams all along the way. Every year there's um, assessments. You have to do research paper in ophthalmology during your training, as well as a audit. So there are a few requirements. It's quite a robust. Yeah, there's a number of hurdles. ENT, on the other hand, I believe there are two exams across the 5 years, one in the first year and the final fifth year fellowship
Mm.
exam.
Like a
Um,
primary and an exit exam, sounds like.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So
Mm.
ENT has two. Um, yeah, when you think about all the exams Opthal has, ENT suddenly seems
Mm.
more more appealing.
Mate, look, I know, we're kind of running out of time and you gotta go, but lastly, ophthalmologists, what's it like in terms of the public versus private ratio? Um, are they mostly private or do they kind of work in public
Yeah, look,
sector plus minus? Yeah,
I
private.
think from what I've observed and from what Brands Co's publications, which you can just go on the website and look at the reports, annual
Mm,
reports and whatnot. I think the vast majority of work that's done in the field of ophthalmology is done privately. There is
mm,
definitely quite a demand in the public sector. Um, it's kind of, it's an issue that's being addressed every year in
right.
terms of increasing public ophthalmology access.
Mm.
I'm sure there's a lot of things behind the scenes in terms of funding. Like when you think about your places you've worked in, um, Dr. Ninja Sir, think about how big was the Opthal department? They're quite small. They're
Yeah,
quite
that's
small,
true.
right?
That is true.
And
Yeah.
so, how much funding are they getting from the government? I don't know. But there's definitely a little bit of a disconnect. You want more public opthal service. You may need more funding, but I'm sure it's not as simple as that.
Mate, I may have seen some notes from ophthalmology department, but I actually never seen an ophthalmologist or ophthalmology reg in person. So that's that, hey?
A lot, yeah, yeah, a lot of what's done in ophthalmology is outpatient based settings.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
that's true.
and so yeah, that's probably why.
That's what it
But look,
is.
it
Yeah,
depends on the hospital. It depends on the hospital. There's the
that's
Sydney
true.
Eye Hospital, there's
Hmm.
the Melbourne Eye and Ear Hospital, and
Mm.
so they do the bulk of public opthal work across those states.
Awesome,
Yeah.
mate. Awesome. Mate, thanks for coming on. I guess this was kind of shortish first episode.
Mm.
And again, congratulations, getting to ophthalmology, probably, one of the most competitive specialties out there. So really congrats, especially, I know that you work so hard to get into, ENT training, but, you end up getting ophthalmology, which is, amazing result. Mate, are you gonna come back on for a second episode?
Um, for me
What do you mean,
specific,
mate? Yeah.
for me,
No,
oh, I don't think I have anything else to say, but
come on,
we
mate.
we
Come on.
we certainly need we need to line up more more
Yeah,
people
look,
that can talk about their own experiences.
yeah,
Um,
exactly. No, I was talking about, just coming up as a host or
hmm.
co-host and inviting a few of your friends about, talk
Yeah, I mean,
about different specialties. Yeah.
different specialties and different experiences in
Yeah.
medicine. I think you should get like a international medical graduate on,
Yeah, that's a good
um,
idea.
some more
Yes.
physician
Mm,
trainee experiences.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
Let's
yeah. I mean,
put that in the works and
I'll try and help where I can. How about that?
yep, great, mate. Great. Again, all right, mate. I'll let you go, but yeah, great work and
No, I'll let you go. It's me
what do you
letting
mean,
you go. No, no, I'll let you
mate?
go, mate. I'll let you
Okay,
go.
accredited ophthalmology reg.
Ha
Okay,
ha
mate.
ha.
Okay. All right, good to see you, man. Good to have a chat with you as well. Okay.
Sounds good.
All
Thanks,
right,
mate.
see you
Chat
later, mate.
soon.
See ya. See ya. Bye.
Bye.